Good morning, everyone. My name is Dawid Kaczor. I'm a PhD student in Intricare consortium, and I would like to tell you a couple of words today about the novel carriers of information. I have to tell you something. We are all going to die, and you perhaps know that. But perhaps you are also not aware of the fact that 50% of you will die of cardiovascular disease. I found out, actually it was the Heart National Foundation in Brussels that found out that half of European population will die of cardiovascular event. Now I'd like to give you a couple of questions. So first of all, I would like to ask you, do you eat unhealthy food? Do you drink alcohol? Do you have a sedentary lifestyle? If the answer is yes, it is highly probable that in the future you will develop diabetes, atherosclerosis, you will have increased cholesterol level, and perhaps also high blood pressure. It is very tempting to believe and to state that this cardiovascular disease is only problem of the modern society and did not affect the ancient ancestors. But is it really true? So for now, I would like to take you for a while to ancient Egypt and introduce you to one of the Egyptian princesses. So she lived around 3,500 years ago. She suffered from atherosclerosis and died at the age of 40. The computed tomography performed on her mummy revealed highly calcification in the common arteries. But what does the vascular calcification really mean? So basically it means that your blood vessels slowly become bones. Yes, bones. And they can be so severe that they will show up on X-rays. So the princess was not the only one. 20 out of 44 mummies that have been scanned in this study had similar problems. So this suggests you that actually also ancient people suffered from cardiovascular diseases, and we still have no proven way to prevent it. That is striking. So maybe you have not noticed that, but precisely 1 week ago we celebrated the World Kidney Day. And why is that? Well, there are main three reasons to celebrate it. So firstly, simply to just raise awareness of the importance of kidneys. Secondly, to highlight that the diabetes and high blood pressure are the key two risk factors for development of chronic kidney disease. That is basically the progressive dysfunction of kidneys. And thirdly, to encourage all the patients who have those two risk factors for screening. Unfortunately, for some out of 800 million people that suffer from this kind of disorders, it is already too late. And imagine my friend's mother who suffers from kidney disease. And she had to quit her job because she had to spend long hours in the hospital on dialysis. And she was basically hoping for a fast kidney transplant. But what happened? So her kidneys stopped to filter blood properly. And the buildup of wastes in her blood, mainly uremic toxins, as well as increased calcium levels, caused many disorders related to coagulation. Her platelet count was low. Her platelets were constantly activated. They became dysfunctional, and they interacted with the vessel wall differently. So this is, if you ask me, what was the book that I remembered from my previous workplace the most, it will be this book called Platelets. And why is that? Because basically it was the biggest and the thickest one that I have ever seen in my life in printed version with the super small font size. And why I'm mentioning it? Because it was the first time in my life when I found about the existence of the so-called microbubbles derived from platelets. So as scientists, we have to be always ready for unexpected results of our work. And there was this guy, Peter Wolf, who performed the experiments on blood in 1967 in Birmingham. And basically, he found this weird sediment in his test tube after plasma centrifugation. And he decided to analyze it. He found out that it increased the coagulation of blood. Interestingly, he named this sediment platelet dust and accidentally became the discoverer of microbubbles. So now I would like to introduce you to the world of those microbubbles and explain why they are so fascinating. So basically, the first thing that you have to know is that they are released from every cell type in your body, and you can find them in every bodily fluid that you can think of, such as saliva, cerebrospinal fluid, urine, blood, lymph, tears, whatever you want. Another remark is that they can deliver specifically packed cargo from one cell to another. And by specifically packed cargo, I mean genetic material, bioactive lipids, and specific proteins. Now we know that platelet-derived microbubbles can interact with cells from vasculature, namely endothelial cells and smooth muscle cells, and they can change their behavior. So now I would like to ask the audience if there are any smokers among us. Perhaps we have 1.5 smoker. Okay, I expected that. But maybe you think that you're on the safe side because you don't suffer from any cardiovascular or renal disorder yet. But I have one bad and one good news for you. So the bad one comes first, I'm sorry. So scientists found out that smoking only of one single cigarette causes the immediate and accurate increase in the number of extracellular vesicles derived from platelets. But don't you worry too much. They also found out that the pre-consumption of red wine that contains polyphenols significantly decreases the level of platelet EVs. That is why right now I think that you have a perfect tool to keep the levels of your vesicles balanced. But right now let's think about for a second about the possibilities of regulating those platelet-derived extracellular vesicles, and also about regulating the expression of the surface proteins on their membranes. Can we do that? I think that antiplatelet drugs can do that. And let's think about my grandma, who suffered from lung cancer. And she was taking antiplatelet drugs until the last day of her life. And particularly, she was taking heparin. Right now, we know that heparin blocks the EV transfer between cells. And this is also true for other antiplatelet drugs. Maybe platelet EVs were also involved in the development of heart disease, who knows? But right now, at the moment, scientists in Texas are able to diagnose patients, pancreatic patients, by analyzing only vesicles derived from cancer cells, and they analyze only one protein that is present on those vesicles called DryPican-1. What is more and striking for me is that the platelets can also take up the genetic material from blood that derives from cancer cells, and then they can transfer it along the bloodstream, and they can be considered as potential biomarkers of cancer progression as well as vesicles derived from them. So now, I think that some of you, let's call them the doom thinkers, will remember from this talk that half of us will die of cardiovascular disease. Another ones, the history lovers, will remember about the calcified princess. The doctors among us will remember that kidney disorders lead to release of EVs derived from platelets that can be modulated by antiplatelet therapy or a glass of wine. Then another ones will remember that they can serve as potential biomarkers. But we are all researchers and we have to remember so many things. But I would like to remember just one sentence, that extracellular vesicles serve as novel carriers of information. So there are new messengers. If you think about them this way, the whole new world of possibilities opens up. And I think this is striking and it makes my heartbeat going. Thank you for your attention.